Welcome back to Document Basics. This is number 4 of your big 3, the seller's disclosure of property condition. So actually 4. So just to review, almost every transaction is going to have and need a consumer information statement, a CIS, a lead paint disclosure, a seller's disclosure of property condition, and a lead paint disclosure. So today we're going to be talking about and showing you how to get the seller's disclosure of property condition filled out. So let's go to one right now, and there it is. It's a state form. The first thing you want to make sure is this date here is the 2013 one. So this gets filled out originally by the listing agent for the sellers. You could read this code down in here. The way it's always been explained is that this is the seller's disclosure. In other words, it's their words, not yours. You should avoid doing as little as possible on this disclosure. So certainly I think you could put in names of the sellers. And if there's 2 sellers, and of course you're not going to write that, but you'd put in the other person's name, and certainly you could put in the address as well. But other than that, I would let the sellers put in the approximate age of the building, and I'd let them put in the purchase date. All right, that's the top of the form. For you, that's about all you have to fill out on it. Put in the seller's name for them, and you could actually hand this to them blank. You're just putting in for convenience, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's some attorneys in the state of Delaware who would actually prefer that they print their own names in there. Ask them to print, but it's fine to put in their name, so it's a little clearer to read down in here. Now, I'm just going to scroll through this. This is a 7-page document, and in there, it's basically for the sellers to say, I know something, I don't know something, or yes, I know something, no, I don't know something, or no, I just don't have any idea. So yes, this is true, no, this is not true, I don't know. So they don't have, sometimes you'll get sellers who want to say, well, I'm not any kind of inspector. How am I supposed to know this stuff? Your answer is nobody expects you to know this stuff. All you're doing is putting in the things that you do know. And the other thing you want to caution when you're dealing with sellers, talking to your new listing, your new sellers, is listen, almost every lawsuit, the majority of lawsuits involves this disclosure, in that the buyer, the eventual buyer, says something should have been said or disclosed and it wasn't. So when in doubt, disclose. That's what you're going to tell them. We could overcome anything. When in doubt, disclose. So I've had people, about 10 years ago, Delaware had a giant snowstorm, and it was actually 3 separate storms who came in over President's Day weekend in February. And I still remember that we had snow on Saturday morning, and it was a lot. And Sunday morning, we had more snow. And then Sunday night, bless his heart, the weather guy on TV was saying, well, get ready, folks, because now the big one's coming in. I mean, we had feet and feet and feet of snow. So Delaware's not built for that. But I did have sellers after that storm for a few years saying, you know, I've lived here 30 years. I've never had a lick of trouble with the roof leaking, except for that big storm we had over that President's Day weekend, and a lot of people did. And it was up over there in that corner of the roof, and I had it repaired. Do I really need to disclose that? The answer is yes. And it's fine if something happened. Things happen to houses. That's how you explain it to them. And it's fine if you got it repaired. It's good if you have some proof that you got it repaired. But when in doubt, disclose, disclose, disclose. So that's how you're going to explain it to them. And then you're going to leave this with them. Now, what's nice is or what I do very often, I will send this out in advance because, oh, I said I was going to scroll through it. It is 7 pages. Again, your homework, you could probably guess what it is. Pull out one of these and just kind of review it. You don't have to be a home inspector. You don't have to know all the answers. I usually respond if, someone calls up and they say, well, it's asked me here, do I have 220 or 240? I don't know what I have. Maybe it's a widower or a widow living alone. Then answer, you don't know. What you don't want is to say, well, I'll come over and look in your fuse box and I'll tell you, because you don't know. You're not an electrician. Don't pretend to be an electrician. Don't pretend to be someone who knows fireplaces. Don't pretend to be someone who knows heating and air conditioning. Oh, I could tell you how many tons that air conditioning is. You don't. You don't know. Okay? Don't pretend to be an expert. Just say, look, you either know, it's either yes or no, or I have no idea. Just put down, I have no idea. All right? You want to keep a distance from this seller's disclosure, and that is because it's supposed to be the seller's word. No coaching, no help from a real estate professional on this. And lastly, you don't want to put yourself in a position where, let's say somebody sues for something, the air conditioner is falling apart, and the seller says, well, I wasn't sure what to put in my seller's disclosure, but I asked my real estate agent, and they said, oh, just put it's okay. That should be fine. Oh, guess who's on the hook? You are. So you don't want to be the expert. In this section here, and let's enlarge it a little bit here. There we go. And now it's gone. There we go. All right. In this section here, are these things in working order? Or if it doesn't, if an item's not conveying, meaning if it's not staying with the house, then leave the fields blank. So, of course, if it's got central air, and this says window air conditioning, your seller may say, what do I put? Well, just leave it blank. All right. Or if there's a washer dryer, and it's not staying with the house, they don't have to click yes or no, but they're going to click what they know is true or not true there. All right. So then on this page here, this page is page 6. This I always like to fold over and explain it to the sellers and just say, look, we want to make this as easy as possible for someone to buy a home. So if there's any questions here that you think, put your buyer hat on, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, and if you think there's anything that a buyer might say, oh, why is that? And I'm trying to find one here. Let's see. Well, nothing's just jumping right out at me here. But if there's something there, has there been any additions to the original service? And this is the electrical system. And you're going to click yes. Well, a buyer might say, oh, well, what kind of additions have been done? So you're going to explain to your seller that, where was that? There. They're going to take number 115 and go down here and write in 115, and I always ask them to print. Sometimes I see these seller's disclosure and the seller scribbles stuff in there, and it's really like no explanation. So tell them it needs to be printed and legible, and they're going to explain, well, we expanded our garage so that I could have a workshop in there, and we went from this amount of service to this amount of service and increase it. And that's what it was. So they're going to put the question number and the explanation there. All right, you worry about any problems here, they're just going to fill it out. Now, guess what? They're going to sign it. They're going to say if there's one seller, two seller, they don't need to sign twice. They just need to sign once. And you don't need to sign it anywhere. On the bottom is property address. I don't often see that filled out. And I think the intent was that if the pages got separated, you know what page it is. So to have this completed, you should have the property address at the bottom. I'll be honest, if I see that come in and it's not there, I'm not going to bounce it back, because you have it, or should have it, at the top here. There. You should have it up there. Now, if it's not up here, sometimes I've seen these things come in that don't have the seller's name, don't have the property address. This is not filled out. This is not filled out. But gosh, they clicked everything and initialed everything. I'm going to bounce it back, because you really need to identify this form. You need to identify who's filling it out, which is the sellers, and filling it out for what? This address. So the other thing they have to do is they have to initial it all. Every page has to be initialed. And let's see if that's still here or not down at the bottom. That has to be initialed. Yeah, this is my favorite part here. Whoops. Because they're signing this page and they're initialing this page. And I think it's just cutting. I don't know how to get rid of this darn thing here. So just keep aware that they need to initial at the bottom of that page. So what about now if you're the buyer's agent? Well, I think you know the routine. It's the same as with the lead. It's the same as with the radon. You're going to go into the MLS, go into the documents. There's usually a little button or something you could click for other documents, and you download this form. Again, it should be filled out. If it's not, the listing agent uploaded the wrong form or the blank one by mistake. But you let your buyers review it. You'd like them to review it prior to any offer or any contracts being written up. And again, keep in mind, go back to your pre-licensing. When you fill something out and the buyer sign it, it's an offer. When the seller sign it, it's a contract. So a little point of law. But your buyers are going to sign it, and your buyers are going to initial every page. If you're filling this out in dotloop, make sure you put the little initial boxes there. Because dotloop, you grab a field and you pull it in there. That's about it. The seller's disclosure will get a lot of questions. That's usually where you get most of your questions from the listing agent. So let's just talk about listings real quick before we finish up. As a listing agent, you need to have completed, of course, a CIS. The seller needs to complete a lead-based paint, a radon disclosure, and this seller's disclosure property condition. I think what I started to say before was, very often I will send this out in a PDF to sellers prior to me getting there, because sometimes they want to wrap their arms around this and kind of look it over, or they just flip through. If you got it at the table when you're taking the listing agreement, they'll look at this and say, can I get this back to you? I can't fill this out now. And that's legit. It is a big form. It's 7 pages. So I very often will send it to them in a separate email. Let's say it's Tuesday and I have an appointment with them on Thursday. I'll send it to them and just say, just as a courtesy to you and a convenience, I'm sending this form that you need to fill out. And honestly, whether you put your house on the market with me or someone else, you're still going to need to have this form filled out. So I'm sending it to you in advance, and then try to sell yourself. This is how I work. This is how I try to think ahead. Something like that. I'm doing this for your convenience. So you want to have in a listing appointment, we'll go over these things too, but you want to have that little bit of differential between you and others. So this could be that slight differential in that, all things being equal, hey, that was nice of JT. He actually sent me the form first, so I have time to look it over and fill it out, rather than shoving it on my nose and saying, start checking things off. So you could send that out in advance. I think that's about it for this form here. So again, you know what your homework is. Print it out, look it over. You don't have to be an expert. You want to distance yourself from this form, but this is a requirement in the state of Delaware that these things get completed. As a buyer's agent, you're going to pull that out and have your buyers sign it as well.